you better. Yeah, you better.
Hey, so on today's episode, we are going to talk about the exciting world of where
nonprofit meets
for-profit.
And how cool is it when a nonprofit meets for-profit? Because we want to take lucrative with purpose-driven and make lucrative purpose-driven work and impact for everybody.
Yes. And I have to be honest with you, until I met you and until I started working with your clients, I didn't realize this world existed. So I am incredibly fascinated and inspired because I've only looked at things through certain lenses. And even though I do have a little bit of a nonprofit background, I never realized how you can really leverage it in a beautiful, beautiful way. Obviously based on relationships, obviously based on being able to communicate at a high level of what your purpose is and having a very strong line in between the for-profit and the nonprofit.
Right.
There can be
no commingling.
Yeah, none of this.
We'll go into what that means too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just on the few examples that I've been able to put my hands in of individuals who are doing it right, it's taken my awareness and curiosity to a whole new level.
It's really fascinating because I only know the nonprofit sector. I didn't get into for-profits until I started my own company. And even in the nonprofit sector, I was like, why is everyone's mindset on fucking brokenness? Like even though I only know the nonprofit world, I didn't understand why is like everyone operating with such a broke mindset.
Well, and so that's why, honestly, I steered away from it because when you start talking to people with nonprofits who are founders, their biggest bottleneck is how do I get this funded? Because I can only come out my pocket for so long. And I thought the same thing. So to that point, I was using my for-profit businesses to fund my nonprofit businesses because the ask was always so excruciating.
Right.
But after joining you, just on the finance operations side in your lunch and learns that you're doing, and then also watching you behind the scenes with your clients, you have allowed me to come behind the curtain and see that if you're asking the right people in the right way with the right information and you're making the right strategic partnerships, the ask isn't as scary or as excruciating because there are people out there who want to support nonprofits. So truth be told, if you're not getting that money, it's because, and I said this yesterday and it might've been a little harsh, but I had my profit CEO hat.
Yep, which is the mindset we want.
Right.
This is the mindset we want.
And I said, well, for those of you who are founders of nonprofits, for those of you who keep asking, when can you get a salary and when can you get funded? Well, that when is going to happen when you're better. And when you start operating like a CEO or a CMO or a COO, that's when the money's going to come, when your skill set raises. Because people don't support things when they're not together, frankly. You might get a one-off support, but at the end of the day, they want to see the return on investment.
Sure.
Whether it's just what you did in the impact report or the return on investment, because the other thing that I was thinking about last night, because there was a podcast that really inspired me, and I'll go into that a little bit more.
Ooh, with the podcast.
Yes. But every business has its core competency. Every for-profit business has its core competency. Therefore, anything that's not their core competency, they outsource.
Right.
And as long as a for-profit business has a need that is ordinary and necessary to deliver their product and service, why, as a for-profit company, based on whatever it is I'm operating in, would I not want to align or make a strategic alliance instead of with just a vendor, but maybe a nonprofit who is specializing in the area that I'm not specializing in.
Right.
Because all of their data is transparent. I can look into it and see it. So when I looked at it through that lens, I was like, whoa, I can't wait to start educating for-profit businesses to make these strategic alliances.
You know what? It's not even, it's more than that. It's the strategic alliances with aligning with a for-profit entity, but it's also like, can we fix this mindset and retrain and reprogram and rewire nonprofit founders and leaders to understand that you have a bottom line, that you need to understand what a P&L is, profit and loss statement, which is in the nonprofit world, we call it a statement of activity, that you have people to feed, not only the mission of people to feed, but also like you yourself and your staff, if you want to hire staff. And like people are, like you said, people and nonprofits are always asking, when can I pay myself? Duh. Like when you realize that you have to go get money and bring it in, just like any business. And not only that, you as a nonprofit can charge for services. You can have a revenue, you can have multiple revenue streams. So I wish like the nonprofit term didn't even exist. I cannot stand this broke mindset. And so if you're a client of the Nonprofit Plug, you hear us say all the time, like, no, we don't operate in a broke mindset. And that also isn't in abundance either. If you operate in broke, you stay in broke. If you operate with the mindset of abundance and healthy financials, and you learn your financials and get these skill sets and come to our lunch and learns, then you get to change the whole environment and culture in the operation of your organization. And that's why it's so critical for us to get this merge and this partnership and this collaboration of nonprofit meets for-profit.
I agree. So step one, change the mindset. Step two, the founders and the individuals who are running the nonprofits down to the board of directors also have to be in alignment with this mindset.
Yep.
Understanding the financials, understanding that nonprofits are held to a higher standard.
Way higher standard. How wild is that? These broke mindset organizations are held to a higher standard than a for-profit. But I guess that's probably because nonprofits are having way more involvement with humans or whatever their mission is in the community. And there's just so much transparency and there's so much IRS involved. It's because there's so much IRS involved. And so it gets put at this higher level, but without the training to be a business owner,
without the training, without the resources, which again is why I'm grateful we exist, because the work that we do, the meaningful work that we do, with the community that MPP is building, but it's changing the mindset. It's giving the individuals an insight into the for-profit world, the skills needed to survive in the for-profit world. And then of course, we keep hitting home the fact that as a for-profit, as a private for-profit, and especially if I don't have any shareholders to answer to, I do what I want. That is not what it is like in the nonprofit world. They are answering to somebody. They're answering to their board.
They're answering to the board. Ultimately, they're answering to the board. Yesterday, too, I was talking to a nonprofit tax exempt attorney. So he is an attorney that only touches nonprofit stuff. And we were talking about this. We have I don't want to call it a situation, but this challenge with a client that's really trying to be innovative with their nonprofit and entrepreneurship development. And so they want to do these equity sharing, and that term doesn't even exist in the nonprofit world. But what if it did?
What if it did?
But just not in a like profitable-ish like way, but like what if equity did exist in the nonprofit world? Would people take it more seriously?
I would think so. And I think that it's counterintuitive to hold nonprofits to such a high standard, expecting that they would be operating. So I'm going to use for-profit words at this point, but they're expected to operate at a 70% profit margin. Okay. That's not exact, but it is as literal as it can be, as I'm merging the two
reality.
worlds,
Sure.
right? So when they're expected to operate at that level and not given the resources, the tools, or the language in their bylaws or within their governance to be able to do so, it's almost like making it impossible. But
It's like set up for failure.
set up for
But
failure.
remember, we fail our way to millions.
Yes.
So let's fail all our nonprofits to millions.
And now that we're so immersed in this, because again, I'm fascinated by it. So Sharon and I are up 7 days a week now, all hours of the day,
Literally
brainstorming, making phone calls, asking the right questions, asking questions that have never been asked. And like what she just said, you know, somebody in the industry who is an expert, and they're like, what you're saying doesn't exist.
Right.
Not that there's a hard no against
Right. Not that
it.
there's a no. It just that doesn't exist. So let's be like, I just want to be innovative.
And
I just want to know what can we do to be innovative and still within guidelines of all these regulations and red tape and IRS rules and also having to make all these donors happy, funders happy, the people that we serve happy because they have an opinion.
Absolutely. Well, and so last night, and I wanted to bring this up because I think that with people having these hard conversations, specifically, there's a gentleman in the for-profit world who is very, very passionate.
Can we just clarify what just happened?
Yes.
I think she needs to go get around. Who are you thinking about?
No, well, no, well, I was getting excited about Dan Fleischman.
Oh man.
I mean,
Listen,
I was leading up to Dan Fleischman.
Who this guy is.
Yeah, he's wild, and what's so great, entrepreneurial genius who does nothing but give back, who launches podcast, The Money Mondays, okay, where he brings on celebrities or entrepreneurs or people who have made a lot of money to talk about how they made the money, to talk about money, and then talk about specifically how they're giving it back. Okay, so in order to qualify to even be a guest on the podcast, you have to.
I love this. You have to have a social impact arm.
You have to have.
Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for one of my colleagues, Ariel, to watch this show. She is like life determined to ensure every for-profit has a social impact arm. And she's heavy in the crypto and NFT space. I'll never forget, we were at a conference in Las Vegas and we went around to every single booth at the crypto conference and we asked, what's your social impact? They responded with their Instagram handle. I almost shit myself. I said, I'm not asking for your social media handle. I meant social impact is like, how are you impacting the community? And they looked at me like, I was like, oh man. So Ariel and I knew like, okay.
There's a need for this, right?
You have to have a social impact arm.
You have to. And, you know, I've always done it very low key on how I mentor my team members. And then now, any new business that I require, I actually mentor them through entrepreneurship and make it not just employee owned, but I mean, they're actually on Secretary of State and what have you. Because I want, so my social impact arm, though it's not formal,
not her social media handle.
No, is that I want everybody to have the same opportunity that I had 20 some years ago, because it crafted the individual that you see today, who, even though life has drop kicked me several times and, you know, and all that good stuff,
failure to millions,
failed my way to millions. But look at the light inside of me. I mean, I am lit because every day I wake up knowing that I can make a difference. And so like I was saying with Dan Fleischman and The Money Mondays, I love the fact that they talk about money because his whole intro is so cool. They say, you know, we talk about money because people think talking about money is impolite, but the truth is not talking about money is impolite, right? And so he gets on all of these individuals who come on and they have these hard conversations and transparent conversations about money.
Like, are they talking business transparency money or like in-person money or both?
Both.
Everything.
So trick this.
Like
so
we should do that with nonprofits and for-profits.
Absolutely. And so the recent episode that dropped, it was actually Jeezy. And so he hits those 3 segments. Like his podcast is very structured, right? So when they were talking about the segment of money, and he was like, well, what is your take on the fact that it's, you know, improper or rude, you know, to talk about money? He was like, what money? He was like, how? He's like, we were poor. So what are we talking about? Because it's just a constant reminder. And mind you, this is his vantage point as a child, right? And he's like, what were we going to talk about? The fact that we can't make bills, the fact that, you know, we're not able to bridge those gaps. Like, what was there to talk about back then?
Right.
So his, you know, the way he explained it on the podcast was the fact that the environment that he was in, or his particular family structure at the time, you know, that they were underemployed, you know, and there was no mindset to go get the money, go, you know,
Right.
but obviously he changed that. So he was the first one in his family, but then he went into a long dissertation about how he minimalized his life to be able to build what he's built. So he's like, instead of having, you know, the fancy cars or the fancy clothes or what have you, or the fancy apartments, I had the money to do that, but I didn't. I sacrificed. I ate top ramen. I had 5 t-shirts. I had 1 pair of shoes. And he's like, and I was making bread. He's like, but I was reallocating that money for a bigger picture. And he also said something else that was so cool, because in our day, personal development wasn't a thing. I mean, yeah, you had your Tony Robbins tapes.
Right. You know, it's like a buzzword now.
It's a buzzword now. And everybody's like okay with it. But it wasn't easy to access back then.
Right.
Right. You had your Jim Rohn, you know, you had your couple, but they weren't any, I mean, you looked up to them, but like, could you really see yourself in them? Right.
No, and they weren't accessible either.
And they weren't accessible. Unless you were up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I was stressing over life, and then you're ordering the tapes, but that's another animal.
Right.
But he was saying that before personal development and before entrepreneurship was a thing, he said he didn't realize that he was investing in himself all of those years. He said that his brilliance came from reading, getting in the right rooms, asking questions. And instead of hanging out with the homies, right, he would get in other rooms and hang out with people who were doing what he wanted to do or had insight.
That makes perfect sense. We talk about this too. Like, I want to be the brokest and the dumbest person in the room.
Well, and then the other night when we hopped on a live in a very big community, and everybody in the live was going, well, I don't know where to start. I don't, you know, I don't necessarily have the resources, this and that. Like, I don't even, you know, again, like I don't even know where to start. And I'm like, well, you got to get in the room where you're having these conversations. And unfortunately, it's probably not with the people in your existing circle. Yeah. It's just not. Yeah. Because if it was, you'd already be having these conversations, right?
Goals. Yeah. You'd be having those conversations, you'd be at those goals. So this is critical to note. And this is the gem that we're dropping. The plug of today's day is who you surround yourself with, because it's all about mindset. So entrepreneurship, being a nonprofit founder and executive director, being the CEO of a for-profit business, it all starts in mindset. We have serenade. 3-year-old serenade. Yes. It's so adorable. That's so cute though. You can't even read that. It was so cute. It's adorable. You okay over there?
She gets away with murder because of that.
Oh, yeah, I already know.
Mindset.
So mindset is probably one of the most critical components to, like, when we have our academy, we do our trainings and we do these lunch and learns and all these conversations with clients on their nonprofit, even though the specific topic might be your bookkeeping and accounting for today, or are you in compliance? The conversation, whether you know it or not, is actually around your mindset. Why are you operating like that? Why do you think like that? Why are you scared? Because most people, it's just that they're scared to understand. They're scared that they won't, scared of the unknown. Yeah, scared of the unknown.
Scared of failing, scared of being judged.
Right. That's the biggest thing.
Responsibility.
Just on a basic, like, when I tell clients, like, just go make your first ask. Just call somebody and just, you don't have to say, hey, can I have $100 right now? You say, hey, you know, I want to introduce you to my mission. I'd love you to come by and hang out with us for the day. If it's a youth organization, come meet our kids. You have to also put in the work to involve them back. Get them to, I always tell this, I always tell one of my clients, I always tell people like, go have them drink the Kool-Aid. Have them drink your Kool-Aid. That's why people rock with us.
Yeah.
They have drink the Chamber Kool-Aid and it is good.
And it is good.
It is sweet. It is tangy. It is feisty. It's
a mouthful.
You know what's that candy that what was that kind of it's sexy?
No, it's soft.
Salty.
Oh my God, give it only vibes.
Sharon went down that road. It is a mouthful.
It is. But what was that candy that like every time you bite it, you get a different flavor?
I don't know.
There's a candy out there it's like the next layer is a different kind each time. Okay. Mindset is critical.
Well, mindset really is critical. But here's the other thing too. People think things are unattainable.
Right.
And also the gatekeeping.
Right. Ooh, let's talk about gatekeeping.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
because
coming up a lot lately.
It's coming up a lot. It's coming up in race. It's coming up in gender. And then in the nonprofit sector alone, because we're always constantly fighting for a place at the table, there's that gatekeeping also. And we have probably heard the word gatekeeping this week, like every day.
Well, yeah, because they keep saying, Amber and Sharon, you're not gatekeeping.
Right.
We're like,
right.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because the way we eat is off of building relationships and sharing information, right? Because, well, and so when we were talking to our group this week and how you just said, you don't be scared, you got to get people to come in and drink the Kool-Aid. I think where their mindset, what's the word? Where they're not, now you were with the candy and I'm with the, I don't want to use the word bottleneck again, where they're
like stuck.
Roadblock.
Roadblock.
Okay. So these new founders, where their roadblock is they don't understand, and why would they? Because most of them are W-2 employees.
And to no fault of their own, W-2 employees or unemployed or no academics beyond middle school and high school. These are just people with pure hearts to serve.
Right. And they don't realize yet that in order to get out, they have to brand themselves. They have to brand themselves because remember, you have to build the like, know, and trust. So with that said, I know that roadblock all too well because I'm an extreme introvert. So to show up and do this and to show up and engage and show up and be in people's faces, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I want to go in a cave at 5 p.m. and not speak to anybody. It is exhausting. But guess what I found out? By doing this type of structured engagement and by giving all I have for an hour. Sorry. Okay, here we go. By giving all I've got for an hour, leaving nothing on the dance floor.
Nothing. Oh, I can't pop it like that yet. Okay.
What it does is that works for me. So this podcast will work for me.
Right.
The clips will work for me. People will be seeing me at 3 a.m. when they can't sleep. And they're like, wait,
but that's when
solution.
That's when the brain digests though.
And then I don't have to have the agonizing conversations of convincing.
Yeah.
They're already convinced.
Yep.
Because I'm showing up with solutions, with options. Right?
Right. No, it's really interesting that you say that because I think for like a good 3/4 of my life so far, I was that extrovert. I loved going to networking events. I loved being the one at events to say, hey, how are you? Who are you? What do you do? Like, okay, cool. How can we work together? I loved showing up to every event. I loved putting on events and
speaking at the events, hosting the events.
I still love speaking at events, but man, I am tired. So I think I'm like a closet introvert now. I shifted somewhere and I haven't pinpointed where yet, but I shifted somewhere where I'm also now an introvert and I also need quiet downtime and alone time to recharge, where I used to need like people around me or like my friends or my parents or something to recharge. And now I'm like, oh no, like you can just leave me alone. And to be in the nonprofit world when you're constantly, and maybe this is when it happened, you're constantly begging, you're constantly having to do strategic partnerships, and that's the game. So people give me a hard time all the time or like tease me. So I call that politricking. That. And I'll never forget the first time I introduced that to a client, because I couldn't get her to understand strategic partnerships and the importance of them. So I was like, God, how can I explain this shit where it'll like, it makes sense to all of us. And I was like, you know, when you're on the street and you're like, kind of have to like politrick a little. I was like, oh, politrick, there we go. And she was like, yeah, like I got a politrick. I gotta like get this person to do this and this one to do that. And I need this from this one and I'll give this. I said, that right there is exactly what you have to do. And that shit is exhausting. But if you understand the end result, it's what you have to do. Sometimes you just have to politrick. And so I also tell people that sometimes like you may not like somebody, you may be in a room with some people you don't care for, but there may be some resources that you need.
Yeah.
You got to politrick.
You have to. Well, and that's why, you know, the people that are successful at join country clubs,
Yep.
They go out, they
Yep.
mix, they mingle,
Mhm.
you know, they're on yachts together, they're on boats
Mhm.
together. I mean, it's just what they do. And it's for a reason, because they are politricking. And so with that said, when I obviously I saw Sharon whirling and twirling, you know, before we started formally aligning.
I'm the politricking queen.
Yes, you are. And so I was watching it and I kind of put it on a spreadsheet, because I'm like, okay, well, first off, I'm
Pause. She put it on a spreadsheet.
Well, I was concerned because I was what had happened was, well,
Amber needs to get a kickback from Microsoft Office Excel for the use of spreadsheets. Okay.
All the world's problems can be solved on a spreadsheet.
All of them.
And in this scenario, I would watch her and I'm like, wait, is that hair and makeup? Was that an outfit? A new outfit? Wait, did she have somebody there filming this? And I'm doing the math. So then one day I asked her and I'm like, okay, so you go to these events. It was 6 hours out of your day, plus hair and makeup, plus this and this, right? So line item.
Items.
And I'm like, okay, so how, you know, and obviously you never know what you're planting, you know, at these things, and you never know what's going to come to fruition later. But again, this is a cash outlay constantly, right? And I'm like, so what are you converting immediately? And now, granted, she did know her numbers, you know, and she did disclose her numbers to me. And it made sense. In most cases, within 72 hours or within a week, you were at a break-even point.
Yep.
You know, so I was like, okay, damn girl, you're doing better than most, right? But I was like, but how can we really maximize this?
Yeah.
And so then I started throwing more numbers and I'm like, look, we can get more eyes on you this way, we can get more eyes on you that way, where you don't have to physically get up and do a 1 hour commute, a 5 hour commitment,
Hair and makeup,
this, that, the other.
That just want to catch up.
Yeah. And because having to be very strategic with your networking.
Yep.
This is strategic networking.
Yeah.
So like, no lie, like right now, our lunch and learns, our podcasts, this and that. Yeah, you know, there's an outlay of money. Obviously, you need, you know, platforms to produce and editors and what have you, right? But I feel, well, and we've done the analysis, that we're able to communicate our offerings, our expertise, whatever the case is, to a wider audience. It's just,
has good reach.
It has
more efficient. It really is. It's more efficient.
It's more efficient. And so we can do more and give more because we're not burning out.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, burnout is an all-time, like, that's also a buzzword right now too, is how to balance everything. Because you can't show up to every event, even though we're telling you you need to politrick, but you can politrick strategically. There's online networking events all the time.
Yeah.
There's leveraging things like LinkedIn that we're like starting to master, leveraging social media, if that's the route that you want to go, Instagram and things like that.
Yeah.
And
And
just-
private communities.
Yep. And then strategically pick the events that you need to go to or the meetings that you need to go to
In person.
in person.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we all just don't wake up like this.
No, we do not. I mean, some of us might. Listen, if I could politrick with my hair in a bun and
Yoga pants.
listen, we're only dressed from here up. Well, you're fully dressed, but I have little shorts on because I'm broken and can't get pants on right now.
And that's another thing. So to Sharon's point, you know,
I have to especially be strategic right now. Yeah.
because you can't whirl, and there's no shot you be in heels prancing across the stage with a mic and whirling and twirling
I would
and
love to.
doing your little performances.
I would love to be walking out to Too Short, blow the whistle. That's my jam.
She's serious. I've witnessed it. Actually, the first time I went with her to a networking event, I was so overwhelmed. I had a kidney stone. I was in the ER hours
Talk
later.
about women elevating women.
I realized I should have stepped my game up.
I'm walking out to Too Short, blow the whistle, trying to keep my dress down because I realized it was slit a
Slid
little
right in the
too
middle.
high.
Yeah.
I'm looking over, there's Amber, and I see Amber maybe, fade in just a little bit.
Little wilting.
Yep.
Well, after hour
Yep.
4.
After hour 4,
After
man,
hour 4, I was a wilting flower.
kidney stones are no joke.
No. Yeah, no bueno.
No.
But
Drink water with lemon in it.
drink water with lemon. But when you're strategic and resilient,
And resilient.
or
But we're strategic,
strategic,
critical. And by strategic, we mean politrick.
politricking.
Then it's worth the outcome. And the more you strategically politrick and the more you think about the whole process and identify what your actual needs are, that frees up more time. And that's exactly what we're even doing for ourselves on a personal level. So we don't just like dish out gems and dish out guidance if we haven't tried it ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's stuff we're also trying to do at the same time and be the most innovative and find the best, most inefficient approach. And not only that, but we're trying to find resources and politrick on behalf of our clients.
No, absolutely. Because their success is our success, right? Because I mean, word of mouth and the 5-star reviews and what have you.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. You can't pay for that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's totally true. So when we want to, so let's take it back because we're really wanting to demonstrate like the shit show here and the failure to millions and how do you do that and what have we experienced and what do other people we work with experience, and that what's critical is that merge of nonprofit meets for-profit. And that is why you won't find a better duo than the nonprofit plug and the strategy specialist, because who merges those two to make that mindset so that we can all be successful and lucrative. I really want people to know that we're all in a lucrative environment. It's okay to make money in a nonprofit.
Absolutely.
Imagine like the more money your nonprofit makes, that means you can hire staff, you can pay salaries, and even better, you can serve way more people. Like I can only imagine some of our clients that have interim housing for homeless, if they had more money, they could buy up property buildings and have buildings and units fully furnished with food in them and full fridges.
Yep.
For people that are homeless and trying to get off the streets.
No, absolutely. And to that point, because I'm often brought on so many times as a guest speaker for-profit ventures, like last night, for example, for individuals who are learning about short-term and mid-term housing, right? Their minds are percolating. Obviously they want to build something amazing, their own empire.
Yep.
But what if in the infancy stage, while they're just getting, their feet wet in this, quickly slide in, you do know that if you did a slight pivot and started to serve with a purpose and organized it in this fashion, though different from what you're currently doing, so you can look at the pros and cons of either, but that opens up all these other doors and this large innovation. Yeah.
Mhm.
But you have to, but people don't understand that well, I think it's probably intentional that it's such a separation because legally it needs to be.
I just want to know, do people not really want to serve the community?
No, I think people, because I think that if I'm serving the community, it's coming out of my pocket because I didn't know that I could be innovative and get support because I do feel like I'm begging.
Right.
But after meeting you, I don't feel like that anymore because I've witnessed what NPP has done for your clients who are not as, let's put, savvy already in a bit, in a business world.
And they'll all admit that. They'll all say they don't have professional or academic or business training. They're all learning kind of as they go. And that's where we're kind of stepping in to sort of to help with that official formal business training and skill set.
So after watching that, their growing skill set, and then I look at me on a spreadsheet side by side, and I'm like, okay, I have the desire. I have a little bit more of an elevated skill set. Now, after meeting you, I've seen how you guys bridge the gaps on this other side. Oh, I get it. Boom. Yeah. And that's why I'm texting you at 2 a.m.
And that's why we're merging nonprofits and for-profits.
Yeah.
And the mindset merge.
The mindset merge.
The mindset merge.
And so we've already been percolating on this for a minute. But
the buzzwords we love.
But what really made it real to me, again, shout out Dan Fleischman, shout out Jeezy. When you said, Jeezy, when you said that you took your nonprofit and started to create something magnificent with it, and then got the buy-in and the training and the knowledge and the additional skills from Tony Robbins, and now because of that, your impact is next level. Now, obviously, I'm not comparing myself to Tony Robbins, but I'm just saying.
I mean, you're pretty close. Just saying.
Yeah, thank you. Hey,
I drank her Kool-Aid.
I was like, bingo.
Yeah.
I have proof. You just explained it to me.
Right.
You just gave me the roadmap.
And what's interesting is they don't even really do this. This isn't education that you get in school.
No.
I know I think when my nephew Malachi was maybe 10 or 11 years old, we started talking about nonprofits and kind of financial stuff, just because he was seeing me do it all the time and he would come to my award ceremonies. And so by age 14, he is the founder of a nonprofit organization, M3 Project. And he's going to be more than likely a famous athlete, and to have the financial literacy, to have the being in the environment of people like us that are focused on mindset and business development, and then understanding already as a 14-year-old social impact, and how critical social impact is with their for-profit world. Like, it would be so cool. Like, why is it not like mandated?
I was just gonna say, well, and I'm with you.
Can it be mandated?
No, Sharon, I'm with you on this. Why is it not mandated? Because you have these talented groups of people in the for-profit world who are doing phenomenal things. And oftentimes they do within their organizations. Like I told you, we do have a social impact arm, but it's just not formal. Right. But to your point, making it mandated, I think it's absolutely necessary.
It's necessary, and it's silly though that we have to convince people to have a social impact, or want to serve the community. I mean, there's people really out there that don't want to serve the community. Okay, whatever, but I
bet the percentage is higher of people who do.
I think so too, but I think it's way higher.
They don't know how. They don't know how, but now they do. Or they will.
They will.
Because we are going to demystify.
Yep.
We are going to teach them step 1, step 2, step 3.
With check boxes.
Check boxes, accountability pieces.
Yep.
Checks and balances.
The merge of the for-profit and the nonprofit mindset. That is our ultimate goal.
Well, we're doing it. We're taking imperfect action and we're doing it.
Yeah, I think so too.
And you've heard it here.
You heard it here first. Innovation. Y'all, this was an episode.
It was.
This was an episode. The merge of the mindset of nonprofit meets for-profit
It's gonna be powerful.
Yep,
Just wait and see.
wait and see. Amen. Catch you next time.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.